This episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast is driven by Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy. CGA is the world's most comprehensive online gun dog training resource. They've got over 160 instructional videos that includes everything you need to take a 7-week-old puppy to a finished gun dog. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com, sign up for their free preview module, and begin your training journey today. Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, the most advanced gun dog training resource on the web. You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast, episode 159. This week on the show, we're talking about what you can do when it all goes wrong. We got some tips and techniques to help you save your hunt. All right, welcome. Episode 159 of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. We're your on-demand audio source for all things waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. This week brought to you by Lifetime Decoys, new for 2019. Lifetime Decoys Flex Float Mallard decoys have set the new standard for quality and durability for waterfowl decoys. The EVA foam open bottom construction combined with a patent-pending dual flow swim keel allows for more movement with less wind, the ability to sit on flat ice and dirt, and virtually indestructible design, which can be shot or otherwise punctured and still float. Each decoy only weighs 11 ounces with the self-righting keel weights removed, or 19 ounces with the weights installed. Check them out today, lifetimedecoys.com. If you're new to the show, you can check us out at hpoutdoors.com. You can find us across all of the various podcast directories and databases out there. We're on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And if you're a Facebook user, we got a really awesome Facebook group that you can join up, chat with a bunch of like-minded hunters, and my co-host Dan Hrushka. Dan, what's up, buddy?
I feel like I've been diving into the whitetail world a little bit lately. Been pretty packed, but had some snow on the ground today. Feeling pretty birdy, and ready to get back after some waterfowl, bud.
Yeah, I feel the same. Been doing a little deer hunting, but not as. It just doesn't really scratch the itch for me like it used to. So I'm pumped to get back into the waterfowl scene, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that here in just a minute. I've got a little story that I'll share with you from today. But before I do that, I do want to take a minute just to thank the other supporting companies of this week's episode. Gunner Kennels, engineered for your dog, designed for travel, and built for your peace of mind. The G1 Kennel has set a new industry standard and put Gunner in a category all its own. They were started to protect your pet, and it continues to be at the center of everything they do, and they're dedicated to building the best and safest pet travel crate on the market, because man's best friend deserves man's best kennel. Check out their G1 series of kennels and accessories at gunnerkennels.com. Also, thank you to Duck Camp. Duck Camp makes high-quality hunting apparel in their own camouflage patterns and premium fabrics. They're taking a new approach to this, shaking up the industry with more modern take on hunting apparel. They make really nice lightweight, midweight, and heavyweight shirts that are perfect for the blind, back at camp, or out in town. You can check out their 3-layer ultralight rain jacket. It's a super awesome, breathable jacket that also has a great pattern and can be layered underneath for cold hunts, worn on its own when more mild times, and it also packs down into its own pocket, so it's perfect to go into your blind bag. Check out that new rain jacket and all their other stuff over at duckcamp.com. Dunn's Sporting Goods, thank you to them. Dunn's is a family-owned and operated business with 2 locations in Peabody, Missouri, and Marion, Illinois. They've got over 60 years dedicated to providing the outdoorsman with the best deals on hunting and fishing gear. Check out their selection at shopduns.com, as well as over on Facebook and Instagram at shopduns for weekly specials and giveaways. And then finally, thank you to 737 Duck and Goose Calls, original design, select grade components, superior sound, and unparalleled service. 737 takes exceptional pride in producing the finest quality, best built premium calls on the market today. They're made in America, offered only direct to consumers through their website. Shipping in the U.S. is always free. International orders are now accepted online. 20-day money-back guarantee and lifetime warranty accompanies every call purchased. 737 duck calls lead the flock. If you haven't seen it yet, which I'm not sure if you're on social media or something like that, how you could have missed it, but they've got the new chief out. I heard some sound files on that call. Really incredible sounding call. Super pumped to get my hands on one of those, hopefully here in the near future. So looking forward to that. Also, before we move on from this, just want to take one more second to thank Turtlebox Audio. Been playing with the Turtlebox sound system, and it is pretty freaking sweet. So if you need some Bluetooth speaker that's durable for the outdoor, definitely check out Turtlebox. All right, Dan. So here's my story about the waterfowl deal, man. So today, there's this pond nearby one of the buildings that I work in sometimes, and throughout the summer, there's probably, at any given time, there's like 3 to 5 geese hanging around on there. Well, we've been, getting more birds into the area, and that pond has picked up probably 25, 30 geese now at any given point. So today I'm walking by, and the geese are kind of on the side of the pond, but they're up near the sidewalk by where you go by. And I mean, they're within like 2 feet of the sidewalk. So I'm walking by, and I was like, man, it's not often that you like walk this close to like a live bird and they don't run away, right? So I was standing really close to these birds, just kind of checking them out and whatever. They could care less that, it was like a freaking petting zoo practically. But I'm walking by, and sure enough, I look, and I'm like, son of a gun, there's a banded one standing right there. And I mean, I got to tell you, the frequency in which I see banded birds in this kind of scenario is like pretty astounding. I mean, I've got several neighborhoods around where I live where there's like community ponds that just get loaded up with geese, and I'll drive by there and check them out, and I'll get the binos out, and I see banded birds all the time, it seems like. So it kind of sort of ticked me off a little bit, frankly. I was like, son of a gun. Like, it was just funny, but it was one of those things where I'm like, man, I see way more banded birds when I don't have a gun in my hand. I guess that's probably kind of the deal. But yeah, saw a banded one up close today. Thought about tackling him and just trying to slide it off his leg, but that might have been kind of awkward. So decided to let him go.
You mess up your khakis.
Yeah, right.
See, that's like the norm around here.
Yeah,
Pima tuning, you walk and just about every bird's banded. But
yeah.
Oh man, have you seen any deer while on stand?
So this year has been very, very, very slow for me on stand, oddly enough. But I went out on Saturday afternoon last weekend, I guess. Sat for a couple hours till dark, and it was getting cool. Cold weather was coming in, so it felt kind of right. And as I was walking in, where my stand situated is kind of between a couple of ridges, and I walked in one of the ridges where I have a trail camera that I was going to check because I sort of anticipated scrapes showing up on this ridge that just hadn't shown up last time I was there. Well, this time when I went in, there was a scrape on that ridge, and I was like, all right, cool. Like, there's deer using this area like I thought. And so my stand is kind of in a funnel area between 2 ridges where it's about 80 yards from that spot. So I get up in my stand, right, and I'm watching. I see one deer all night, and it's the freaking stud buck that I've got on trail cam that I've sent you that picture. He works up that ridge, hits that scrape, and just keeps going. Like, does not even. I've seen him. So my stand is where I had him on camera coming up through the funnel. He just came up the ridge. So I assume he's working that ridge right now, and he's probably not coming down through where I'm at. But yeah, only deer I saw. I mean, all through the summer in September, I couldn't. I mean, that camera was loaded with doe and bucks, and I've not seen a single doe out of that stand since I've hunted it. So I don't know what the story is, but I did see the target buck, just not within range.
So what kind of stand are you hunting out of?
It's a hang on, like a lock on.
You had a lone wolf before, didn't you?
I still
didn't
have
you
it.
sell it? You still have it? That's what you use?
No,
Nice.
that's not. Well, so I wanted this spot is probably maybe 300 yards at most from the parking area. It's just a little spot I found. I happened to come on it because I actually jumped some does that were bedded down on this spot. And every time I've gone by there, I've seen deer on their feet in that area. So I put up a camera and I started seeing a lot of deer and nice bucks. So I hung a stand in there and I was like, yeah, it's close enough to the parking lot where it'd be nice to just be able to jump out of the truck, get in here and get up in the stand and not have to like deal with the climber situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I hung a set there. But yeah, since I've had that hung in there, I've not seen a deer other than the last time.
There's probably someone hunting your stand every day, except the weekends.
It could be, but it's in a high pedestrian area, so this is in a county park, right? So I mean, like there's people around a lot, and like the nearest trail is probably like 100 yards from the stand, but like I can see people walking through the woods at times. But I mean, my trail camera puts deer in front of it during those times, like all through the day, like morning, midday, afternoon, doesn't matter. And
doesn't matter. So do you still hunt? Because you used to hunt like right in your neighborhood, right? Like the back end of some houses.
Yeah, not my neighborhood, but a neighboring one. Yeah, I haven't done that in a couple years. Last time I hunted there, I shot 2 deer in one night, and I haven't hunted it since.
I was wondering about that.
I definitely might do that again. I've been spending more time trying to focus on the park because I wanted to shoot a nicer buck because I got a bunch of nice bucks on camera. I can go there and shoot does probably anytime I want.
Off the ground.
Off the
Love
ground.
it.
Yep, 25-yard shot. They just funnel right to the back of the yard, and yeah, pretty easy deal.
And then run in people's backyards.
Yeah, they run over into the septic field and die.
That works.
Yeah, that's pretty fun,
dude. So I tell you what, my seasons seem to get shorter and shorter for the whitetail, and it's I'm okay with it.
Well, the story of your buck killing cracks me up because you said, well, we were talking about deer hunting and stuff, and then you said, yeah, I saw a shooter buck in my like 20 yards into the woods in my backyard the other day, and I was like, yeah, just wait till the last day and go out. You'll be fine.
Well, we're eating dinner. I was like, what is that? And I was like, it looks like a deer. Got the binos up. Yep. It was getting dark, so whatever. But yeah, Saturday, I let the kids pick the tree where to put the stand at, and put it up while they were out there, and went back a couple hours later, and under 3 hours, the buck came in, stood under me for 5 minutes, and I'll tell you what, I got a little. My heart was pumping out of my chest. It's funny because it was thumping hard, man. Just boom, 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 and he stood under me for about 5 minutes. Walked directly away, so I drew on him. Had my pin right on his spine, and I was like, whichever way he walks, I said, I'm just going to slide it right behind his ribs. He took one side step to the right, and man, put a perfect shot on him. His lungs were absolute lung butter, and a hole through his heart. So it was just couldn't have went any better. Ran ran about 80 yards, and that was it. So I'll tell you what though. My dad was in West Virginia, and usually he'll come and help and whatever. And trying to get that deer in the back of my truck with that deck system and a cap, because there isn't much many things to hold on to.
Yeah, you need like a winch in there to just.
I know. I was like sliding out, and then I was like, I can't pull him in, so I ended up. And I'm allergic to deer dander.
I was gonna say, you can't really like hug it on, like hug onto it and like just body it in there.
Yeah. So I pretty much I tried to finesse it in, and I have the gunner in there too, the gunner kennel. So I'm like kind of strapped on any kind of space on one side. So I got him like hanging in a tree. So I'd back up my quad a little bit, let him down, push him in a little more, back up my truck, push him in, back up the quad. Like I'm trying to work in that.
Finally, him up real quick.
I thought about it. So I ended up I cut the rope and just did a full body squat and pushed him up in there. And I was like, if my eyes swell shut, so be it. And got him up there, and that was that. So that was Saturday, And Sunday, I took them to the processor. They called me Wednesday, and tonight before we got here, I was cutting up all the hot sticks and everything and putting it into little individual baggies, and did the whole seal deal and ready to go.
That's cool. You know, I can tell when I'm at the point where like I'm just not sure I'm really into the whole deer hunting thing anymore. And I do I do love deer meat and I do want deer meat, but like when a deer's coming towards me, all I'm thinking about is how much work it's going to be to get that stupid thing out of the woods
Mm-hmm.
and like take care of it and get it to the processor and all that crap. Just like, God, so much work. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure I'm into it.
Dude, so yeah, so this past week, Monday through Wednesday, I got a little opportunity, and I was in the big woods of Pennsylvania, and that was one of the main things crossing my mind the entire time. If we shoot a slammer buck back here, like
Yeah.
2 miles back, I was like, this is gonna be a heck of a pack out. Getting the stands out, getting the buck out.
Yep.
That definitely would have been a quarter up job, I think.
Yep.
But yeah, the product line manager ended up shooting one today, and they got it out. So super cool story, and being a part of the whole thing was really cool. So anyway,
Sweet. Well, let's do a waterfowl show and stop talking about deer hunting.
yeah, man. Hey, we're outdoors. We're outdoorsmen. We get the meat.
Okay. We are. That's factual statements. So yeah, the topic this week is, how to save the hunt when like things go wrong. And I think why this is sort of an important topic to talk about is because not everyone, and I would venture to say most people, probably don't have the opportunity to hunt like several days a week. Like I'm sure most of the people listening here are like weekend warriors where you work a 9 to 5 or something and you get like a day or two a week to hunt. So you get out there and you're doing your best or whatever, and then something goes wrong and you're just like, dang man, like it's like it's a very deflating feeling to think that like, all right, the one day I get out this week, I get out here and my freaking wader's leaking and I got a boot full of water, right? Like that sucks. That's a terrible feeling. So we're going to share a few stories of things that have happened while we were out hunting that could have sort of blown the whole entire hunt, and sort of talk about how we dealt with them. And if you've come across something like this, or if you come across something like this in the future, maybe you'll be able to navigate it a little bit better. But I think part of what brought this up is we've seen some things recently in our Facebook group that have kind of reminded us of experiences we've had and just sort of things that we've had to overcome sort of in the past. So I don't know if you got anything to add to that, Dan, but whenever you're ready, why don't you lead it off?
Yeah, I was thinking that, and kind of maybe some preventative measures that you can take to keep you out in the field, or just random thoughts of
just knowledge bombs you're ready to drop.
Just knowledge bombs.
Get some.
So let's start. I'd like to start with this has happened the last 2 duck openers, and it's high water. So we've gotten to places where we should be standing max, and like knee boots should be very sufficient for where we're hunting. We get there and the water's just way higher than we expected. So one of my main issues is I have not purchased an Invislab to keep kimber up out of the water. So talking about high water and dogs. And I'll start with this opener, which this PA opener was great. We killed quite a few birds actually. And when we got to the spot, it was another, maybe knee-high water type deal. And we got there and we were definitely, above our waist. And there was absolutely no way to keep kimber out of the water, which it was still semi-warm. So I wasn't, very concerned about it, but still to get to the spot, she had to swim probably 200 yards out into this waterway that we were at. So if you find yourself in that situation, 2 years ago, what we did, it rained a lot and the river kind of came up, and the one guy did have knee boots, and it ended up being up over his knee boots. That in that situation, I was able to back Kimber up about 30 yards, 20, 30 yards, and put a seat down, which I expected to sit in, but I put the seat down, and that kept her up out of the water. This year, we ended up taking 2 panel blinds out, so we're in like, waist to belly button region water. Definitely couldn't sit on a chair. The dog couldn't sit on a chair. So what I ended up doing was I laid a panel blind out, not fully out, but I opened it up just a little bit, and put it on some grass and let her sit on that, which she was still about chest deep in water, but it kept her up out enough to where she wasn't having too many issues and she wasn't swimming. So I guess an easier way I could have kept her in the truck the entire time, but I wanted her to be able to get out and get the retrieves, which we wouldn't have been able to get some of the birds with the water depth. So that was a thing that, it easily could have ended a hunt, but I guess some redneck ingenuity, putting a panel blind up instead of sitting behind it, and we hid in some reeds instead. I actually stayed back, and so I was about 15 yards behind the guys that were doing a lot of the main shooting, and I did some shots that were over to the side, and it turned into a good hunt.
Yeah, it's funny because those are things that I don't even consider since I don't hunt with a dog. Like, pretty much when it comes to high water, it's like, can I walk out there? Can my decoy, like, rigs reach the bottom? Those are kind of the things that I worry about. So that's a problem set that I don't even have on my radar. So good on you for, at least you were in an area where you could actually get some natural concealment and not have to rely on the panel blinds.
That's right. So we did set up one panel blind. Like I said, the other one, the thing is, the water was so deep and the grass wasn't that thick. So, I mean, the panel blind was sinking a little bit on its own, but Kimber realized that it was a spot that she could actually sit on it and stay out of the water. And we were there fairly early. I probably should have walked her back to the bank until it was closer to shooting light, and she was doing a little jaw chattering, but once we started shooting, man, she was swimming and was warmed up. So if it was much colder, I think she would have either been in the truck or it would have been the end of my hunt, one of the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So let's think. What are some other common things that sort of cause issues that could be a deal breaker for the hunt?
I'd go to the holes and waders.
Okay. I don't have as much experience with that as you, so continue on.
So this has come up in the group a lot. People didn't test their waders out before season, and the opening day they have a full leg of water, and that is a little different than my situation when we hunted, because I hunted all season. You came up when it was freezing cold, and I had that situation. But I guess preventative measures, really, I mean, you're probably not going to fix it while you're out, right? So one, either have an extra pair of waders in your truck. I would definitely have an extra pair of clothes in your truck especially if it's getting cold and it's a situation that you could end up being very cold. You want to get out of those wet clothes. But my main concern is if you do take a boat somewhere, if you have a long ride in, even some of your stuff like in a canoe, and you get out, and I would have a dry bag with some kind of clothing that you can get out of the wet stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of us inherently over the years have become just sort of conditioned to the fact that, like, a lot of waders leak periodically, and I for years when I was hunting with neoprene waders, I'd have a little water, like a little, my pants that I'd have on under my waders would have a little bit of water, like maybe in the crotch or like on the inside seams or something where a small leak may have occurred. And I was like, whatever, just the cost of doing business, right? Like a little bit of water never hurt anything. But I think if that's the mentality you have, like you are setting yourself up for one day having that catastrophic hunt where the water is more than, it's not just a little leak anymore, right? It's turned into a bigger one, and now you're in a position where it's too much water and you're going to get cold quickly. So I guess my thought on that would be, if you realize you've got an unmanageable leak in your waders, you need to make a decision probably as quickly as possible, as fast as you realize you have that hole, to like keep that portion of your waders out of the water. So if it's like knee deep or something like that, and you can keep the portion of where the leak is out of the water, that's one thing. But if you're in deeper water where getting out of the boat or getting out of the blind is going to expose you to that leak, it's probably best at that point to not push it and just have your buddy or whoever's with you kind of shoulder the load or do more from the boat or whatever you got to do to keep that spot out of the water, because that is going to be one of those things where you just sort of can't really, can't just tough it out, right? I mean, that's gonna get you cold if you're sitting for 2 or 3 hours or longer with wet pants underneath your waders. If it's cold, like, you're gonna really sort of ruin your experience. So I think, in my mind, yeah, you're probably not going to fix that kind of stuff in the field, but just try to be as smart as you can, right? I mean, that's about the only thing you can do to sort of prolong your chances of saving the hunt that day.
Yep. And that cold water is just a very scary situation. If you have a hour ride in a boat, or you're paddling a canoe or kayak or whatever, like, don't wait until you can't handle it anymore to start that journey back. We always say a duck's not worth it, and that you just don't know what can happen to your body at those temperatures. So,
yep, agreed for sure.
Let's talk about gun issues, because that's something that could end a hunt super quick. It could end
also
it before.
You're familiar with.
That okay. So sometime previously, I have had a one-shot semi-automatic going, but that day I don't think that was really my fault, because that gun froze. My gun froze open. I couldn't do anything.
But it was because the carbon buildup inside the gun got gummy and congealed sort of when it got so cold.
I don't know if that's totally true, because my safety froze open. It froze onto fire.
Well, it also has exposure to carbon buildup and things from the inside of the gun. I mean, you can't just if you don't clean your gun like ever, it's gonna have the opportunity to get to freeze up more frequently.
Yeah, that was a cold day.
I mean, I think you were the only one that was having that issue, though, if I recall. I mean, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying.
Well, it was so cold, I don't remember.
Yeah,
because I was in a hypothermic state at that point. So anyway, going to and from your spots, going to your spot, and this was something that came up in the listeners group. Getting a clogged barrel, going in, just dumping the barrel right into mud. Having that, if you and clean it out. I would much rather see someone with a bore snake and clean it out the right way.
Yeah, I don't know what you just said. Our signal dropped, but what I will say is that having a bore snake is pretty critical, and it definitely can save your hunt. And I'm guilty of, I don't really bring one with me when I hunt around home, but if I go on a guided hunt or I'm away from home or something like that, I tend to take a steel cable with like a boar brush on it and stuff that I could use to clean my barrel in a pinch. Because if you don't adequately clean it, you definitely are posing a safety hazard to yourself if you try to shoot it. Um, and I don't know if this sort of dovetails in, but I'll tell the story. I was hunting with a buddy who had a wad get stuck in his barrel, and he didn't realize what had happened. I could tell by the sound; it sounded like something was going on in the barrel, and I just, not like I knew, but I was just like, "Hey, check your barrel, make sure it's clear." And he looked, and the wad was stuck in there, and we didn't have anything with us to be able to clear it. So we literally just went up into the woods and found like a straight enough stick that we ripped the branches off of or whatever, and used it as like a ramrod to get the wad out of the barrel. So I guess it's the twofold thing there is like you either get creative or you get to go home. But also, if you're hunting in the blind with somebody and you think you hear something go on or something doesn't sound right, or they make a comment about like, well, that felt weird or whatever, like help them with the voice of reason, because he had no idea. Like he didn't even think that was like a thing. Didn't know what that, like when I said maybe there's a wad stuck in your barrel, it was kind of like, what? Like, what are you talking about? That's not possible. Like I don't even know what you mean. So not everybody has that awareness. I think I might have been hypersensitive to it at the time because it was shortly after the mass recall and the heavy steel was out. So we had been shooting some of that. So it was kind of unclear if that could be it or not, but it sort of fit the description of what I'd been reading people experiencing online. So turned out that's what it was. But it could have been a bad day if he had shot another round through that gun and blew that barrel up.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying. If you do stick it with mud, if you drop your gun in it and the barrel goes down into mud, and I don't think it just shoving a stick down in it and clearing the mud out, because your next shot could have that wad stuck and you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
So if it's not completely cleared out, you could have some major issues.
For sure.
And like you said, if you wouldn't have called that next shot would have probably blown his barrel up.
Yep. Without question. No doubt.
So how about when you're in a duck swamp and your charging handle falls out and almost goes into the swamp?
I don't know what that means because I've never had mine almost go in the swamp. But what I will say is if you find yourself needing to do major gun repair, this story really, this thing goes back, I don't know, maybe 2015, something like that when this happened.
It's a few years.
But yeah, I don't know. It was one of those mornings where I had like loaded my gun and I'm not sure what happened, but I had like one in the barrel, one in like the magazine housing, one in the tube, and it just was all like it just jammed up. Like I couldn't move anything, couldn't pull the hammer, couldn't do anything. So the only way to get was to dismantle the gun in the dark. Unfortunate. So as I'm doing that, two big mistakes that I made. Well, actually, in hindsight, taking it apart over top of the canoe was a smart decision because I did end up dropping a piece. The charging.
Yeah, we were standing in the water next to a canoe.
Right. So, and it's like waist deep, and I'm with the headlamp only over top of the canoe, and I drop the charging handle inadvertently, and it falls in the canoe. So I recover it, but being the smart guy that I am, I throw it in like the chest pouch of my waders at the time, which after I got to looking later on in the daylight, has a drainage hole in it for water, which the charging handle was small enough to fit through and probably fall out. So I'm really lucky that I didn't lose the handle that day. But yeah, I mean, I dropped it. I dropped the bolt carrier group essentially, and like pieces fell out, and I just, it was like a yard sale. I had stuff everywhere, and it was unfortunate. So I would say if you're going to do any kind of like surgery on your gun in the field, particularly when it's dark, think through like where you're going to put the pieces. Like, do you have a pocket, like maybe a valuables pocket in your blind bag that you could open up and set some small pieces into so you know where they'll be safe or whatever. Just sort of that kind of thing. Because I mean, my options were take the gun apart and unjam it or not hunt. So, I chose to take it apart. And although it worked out fine, it could have been really bad if I'd lost that hunt. If I'd have lost that any of those pieces, that hunt's over, for sure. So if you're going to do that kind of thing, you got to probably be pretty careful when you go about it and think through what you're about to do, and don't just kind of shoot from the hip like I did. That was sort of unfortunate.
I think in that situation, if we did that again, it would probably be smart to take a jacket off and lay it out and do everything over said jacket, just to make sure.
Definitely better than what we did.
Yeah. So that was a really cool spot that we were in. Now we didn't kill anything that morning, right?
We did not. There was a few that flew, but there was the skybusters on the other side of the spot that was kind of hurting us.
And then we had a 3 or 4 pack of geese come in, and we unloaded, and nothing fell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Poor shooting.
Indeed.
Poor shooting. But yeah, that and that happens all the time. You always see, someone loads your gun and closes it up, sends one into the chamber, and before you know it, there's an extra one in there, and you're trying to fix it, and people get locked up. So I think that's a great point. Lay something down and do your disassembly there like you would, and make some kind of tabletop if possible.
Yeah, and I would also say, like, if you're going to do that, I would recommend that you be very, very comfortable with that gun, how it goes back together, because some guns got a little bit of nuance to them, and if it's a new gun that you've not done this with a lot, I think you're better off just hedging your bets and waiting at least till it's daylight. Because if you don't know what all pieces are supposed to be there, you may not know that you've lost one. And, putting them back together, even if you do have them all, if you haven't done it a lot in low light or dark with the headlamp, it can be tricky. So it's not as easy as, you might think, depending on how far you got to go on the breakdown.
Yep. No, that's a great point. I guess one of the last ones I have is just knowing the weather conditions, knowing, and I know that we've talked about this a lot before, but checking the weather and knowing where you're going. And this takes us back to when Trav and I were in a boat and got totally sideswiped by a storm that was coming in, and probably 30-mile-an-hour winds in a 14-foot John boat, and came within inches of diving the front end into the waves. So, keeping an eye on that, knowing that first off, having your PFDs on, and we ended up, we almost did salvage that hunt. We turned the boat, we got to a small island and actually set up, and ducks were flying, but the wind was coming so hard to where we were at. We couldn't even get our blinds set up. Like, it was just blowing us over, and the waves were coming in and smashing the boat so hard that was the one we ended up, walking. We got the boat back to shore, and we walked it back to the ramp, essentially. Or actually, we got behind one of the islands as a windbreak, and we were able to take the boat back. But knowing your equipment, knowing your boat and the capabilities of it, and just not going out, like it's just not worth it. And unfortunately, we've seen that again this year already.
Yeah. Not to gloss past that, but something kind of clicked into my mind when we were talking about this, and so much about these types of situations it comes back to, like, your attitude and your perspective. Like, we kid a lot about that day that your waders leaked, and you felt bad that we were done, relatively early because it was cold, and I'd come up to hunt and all that kind of stuff. But in those types of situations, like, it wouldn't have done me any good to be, like, upset, right? And, like, be a jerk about it or whatever, because it could have been just as easily me with the cold boot, as you, or whatever. So I think part of salvaging these hunts is to, like, just make the best of what you can, right? I mean, even if you get to hunt an hour, you're not at work, right? So it's better than what you could be doing. And yeah, everyone wants to have the perfect hunt and have a great great hunts and kill, get your birds and all that kind of stuff. But, like, it just doesn't always shake out that way. And if it happens to one of your buddies in the blind, like, it doesn't do you any good to get all bummed out at him and like get upset with him like it's his fault, like he wanted that to happen or whatever. It's just, things happen, and someday it's going to be you, and you don't want your buddies getting, ticked off at you because of that happened. So it's like, try to be lighthearted, try to make light, and laugh about it and that kind of thing. But you know, it's don't sweat the small stuff. I guess there's going to be other days to hunt, and yeah, that it's always hard to miss on a day that you're there, and you get cut short for whatever reason. But keep perspective and just sort of keep that stuff in mind. I think is important on how to sort of deal with these situations.
Yeah. You and I have hunted some very cold temperatures together. And I think what I can handle. And when I'm like, oh man, it's getting close. And you could, like, I'm literally sitting there and my teeth are chattering. You're like, all right, bud, let's pack it in. Because it was just like, I can handle some stuff. We hunted, I think that one from light to dark, sun up to sundown, and -8 degrees in a field. And we saw one flock of geese like 4 miles away. Yeah. When you've been through the ringer with your buddies a few times and then you see something like that, like, just be smart about it.
Yeah. In that situation, I mean, I know you wouldn't have said that if it wasn't like for real time to go. So
yeah,
it's all good. But is there any other situations that you had or anything else you wanted to add to this?
I mean, we could talk a lot about, another thing that people always make memes about or jokes about, and that's, people showing up at your spot when you're already set up, and how to react to those situations. I think there was another post in the group not too long ago that, a guy had set up, and there was apparently another guy right across the river from him that had a blind that he said was not really a blind, but the guy's been hunting there for 30 years and he wasn't going to go. So essentially they'd be shooting at each other, and he decided to pack it up and move on to a second spot. So you really never know what's going to happen, especially if you're hunting a new spot. Always having a plan B if possible, or a plan C, because sometimes, I know the last day a couple years ago, and we only get into late December, maybe January 1 is the last day of our duck season, and we had a pretty decent day the day prior, and I saw some birds stacking up in the spot. So I got there, I think maybe at like 2:00, and got everything set up. I was sitting out there at 2:00, and as I was putting all my stuff in, people pulled in at, I think, 2:15 or 2:20 and wanted to hunt the same spot. And they're like, "Are you guys hunting right there?" I said, "Yeah, we're getting set up." And they ended up saying, "Man, I didn't think I was going to get beat here today at this time." But he's like, "Well, we'll move on." And I was like, "If there aren't many people with you, we can hide quite a few there." And they're like, "No, we got another spot to go to." So they just, packed up and headed out. And we shot some good birds that day. That was a couple golden eyes, ringneck, and I think a couple mallards.
Yeah.
So,
I got one other situation that I will briefly touch on here. We've talked a lot about this too in the past, but it's worth mentioning. Nothing can ruin a hunt quicker than when nature calls, right? So obviously being prepared to deal with that is critical. But I think the thing that
that's what Joe's famous for.
I know. When
getting out of the field.
Yeah. I do think that what I've learned about myself is that I can drink all the coffee I want to in the morning, all that kind of stuff. What my trigger is sugar. If I eat donuts or like just things with sugar first thing in the morning, like I'm asking for trouble. And since I've stopped doing that before I hunt, it's been like that fear is gone. Like I don't have to, like I just don't deal with that very often anymore. So, kind of experiment and try to figure out, like, if you're having problems with that in the field, like see if it's something specific that's triggering you that you can try to avoid at least till like maybe like 9:00 or so before you get into it.
See, I'm the opposite, man. If I smell coffee, it's like, ooh.
Oh, I know. It's gross.
gotta go.
Yeah.
But usually I take care of that before I go.
Yeah, I mean,
You'll never forget what.
we were in the park in your driveway, like loading up. I think it was that day when we hunted like all day in the 8-degree weather.
It
And you're
was.
like, man, I'm kind of worried. Like, I gotta like deal with this. And I was like, dude, just go. I can't, whatever. You get your thermos out. You take like a half a sip of coffee, and you're like, oh, there it is. And I'm like, what? Like I mean, it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It happens. But I knew that would do it. I made a thermos of coffee and didn't drink any just so we could get out there. I took one little sip.
It was on. All right. You got anything else that you
just warm me up inside.
Gross. You got anything else you want to add in? I'm currently
Hey Josh, we all poop, Josh, okay?
Yeah, I don't need to know about your inside warming. It's disgusting. What I was about to say is that I'm single dadding it this weekend. My wife is out of town, so I've got the baby monitor here. I'm watching my daughter sleep. My son's upstairs melting his brain on Fortnite. So I probably should go force him to go to bed at this point.
Yeah.
But if there's anything else you'd like to add before we wrap it up, please do.
I don't know. I think some of the other things that have just saved hunts are something as little as a neck gaiter. You start getting chilly and you get some coverage on your neck region, the back of your neck, or just having an extra packable layer can do wonders. So
I'm gonna throw in one more thing.
Ooh.
One last thing.
One last thing.
Always take I don't want to quantify it, but take more shells than you think you'll ever need. I've been on a hunt where we had like 5 or 6 guys, and it was a diver hunt, a lot of swinging and missing, and I brought 2 boxes of shells with me, and we start shooting. Guys are short, we're passing shells around or whatever, and before you know it, we're like scraping the bottom of the barrel on our ammo supply to get our like 6-man limit. So there's nothing worse than watching ducks finish and not being able to close out your limit. So get room, throw a few extra shells in the bag. You probably never regret that if you ever needed them.
Good point. Yeah. I mean, I think that's good. Because like you said, of course you want everything to go perfect, and you want yourself to, not everyone has the perfect blind set up or anything like that. So when you get to new situations, and especially if you're hunting public and you get in there and things aren't the way you thought they would be the following day, especially with, water rising overnight, you got to think on the fly. So be prepared.
Be prepared. Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that's a good place to break it there. Any one last thing at all in general before we wrap up this week?
No, man, I'm good.
Okay. Well, that'll do it for this week. Thank you to Lifetime Decoys, Gunner Kennels, Duck Camp, Dunn Sporting Goods, 737 Duck and Goose Calls, Turtle Box, and Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, the world's most comprehensive online gun dog training resource. They've got over 160 instructional videos that includes everything you need. Take your 7-week-old puppy to a finished gun dog. Visit cornerstoneGunDogAcademy.com, sign up for their free preview module, and begin your training journey today. Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, the most advanced gun dog training resource on the web. That does it for episode 159. Hopefully you enjoyed our chat about when it all goes wrong, how you can try to save the day. If you're new to the show, head over to iTunes, check out all of our past episodes. While you're there, you can leave us a 5-star rating and review. It will help like-minded hunters just like you find our show. That's going to do it for this week. Till next week, for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.